We talked about what anatomy and physiology were. Do you remember? Can you tell me what they are? Anatomy, the study of structure. Physiology, the study of function. We reviewed your Bio 156 about molecules and cells, tissues. We talked about the 11 organ systems of the human body. Now we're ready to start talking about something called anatomical position. That man right there is standing in anatomical position. Let's get this cleared up. It's a standardized method of observing or imaging the human body. It allows us to make precise and consistent anatomical references. So when you're working with a patient and you're dealing with another healthcare professional, you can't say, put your finger on that big thing next to the other thing that's behind that one thing. We have specific terms that allow us to communicate clearly and unambiguously to another person, and you have to know those terms. It's an important part of studying anatomy and physiology. So in anatomical position, person is standing upright, facing the observer, head is level. They're not looking up, they're not looking down. Their eyes are facing forward. That's important in terms of determining eye position. So whether or not the eyes are looking laterally or medially and so on. Eyes are facing forward in anatomical position. The feet are flat on the floor. You're not on your tiptoes. You're not racking back on your heels. Your arms are at your sides, held just slightly away from the body. Arms are not held out straight. Arms are not actually touching your thighs. Arms are held out to the side. The palms are facing forward. This is one thing I see people sometimes getting mixed up about. That's important because it determines, again, the terminology. So your palm is anterior, the back of your hand is posterior. If anatomical position, if that person's hands were reversed, then the terms would not be correct. So that's why that's important. Normally, if we were in the classroom, I would have you all stand up right now in anatomical position, and then I would go around and check carefully, be just like in boot camp. I'll go around and straighten that cap, soldier, straighten that. No, they don't call them caps, do they? Lids, whatever, I don't know. Cover, your cover, that's it. I was never in the military. I would have lasted about an afternoon. Would have been in jail the rest of the time. Another position besides anatomical position is the body lying face down. That's prone position. And a body lying face up is in the supine position. So you're expected to know those terms. Anatomical position, prone position, supine position. From this moment forward, I could ask those on any quiz or any exam. So tell me, what position is that person in? Yeah, that's the prone position. How about this person? Yes, that person is in the supine position. Looks like they haven't eaten in a while. Okay, so there are regional names for parts of the human body. And how many of those do you think you have to know? Yes, that's right. You basically have to know all of them. There might be one or two in there you don't have to know, but essentially you have to know all of them. And in fact, that's going to be your first quiz. Your first quiz is going to be on naming parts of the body. Now, I'm not going to go through this in horrific detail, but I just want to try to show you that, again, the root words make sense. A lot of Latin and Greek in science. And if you just learn a few basic root words, you don't have to become a master of Latin or Greek. But getting familiar with some of these root words will make your life a lot easier. So carpal refers to the wrist. Latin, carpus is the wrist. Think of a carpenter. You have to, hit with the hammer. Mental, that's the chin. You might think mental, that'd be your forehead. No. In Latin, mentum means chin. So your mental region is your chin. Axillary is the armpit. Latin axilla means armpit. I guess I am going through in horrific detail. Sorry. Notice that's not auxiliary. I'll mark that wrong. It's axillary. It's not an extra region of your body. It's the armpit region. Buccal is your cheek. Sternal is your breastbone. Crural is basically your shin. All right. It's lower leg, it says here, but really shin. It's the front of your lower leg. Brachial is your upper arm. That's like the term brachiation. That's what monkeys do when they swing through the trees. That's called brachiation. So brachial is your upper arm. Antebrachial is your forearm. There are two ways to spell anti. Anti with an E, anti with an I. Anti with an I means against or the opposite. Anti with an E means before or in front of. So the antebrachial region, your forearm, is in front of your upper arm. That's why it's called antebrachial. Your coxal region, not maybe what you thought it was going to be. It's your hip, your haunch. Patellar, look at the Latin root word. Isn't that wonderful? It's a small dish. That's what your kneecap is. Pubic, your genitals, your pubes. That's the actual Latin word. Inguinal is your groin. Acromial is your shoulder. What a wonderful combination word. Akros in Greek, high, almost shoulder. It's your high shoulder. Yes. And umbilical, your belly button. Umbilicus Latin means the center of the country. And isn't that wonderful? Isn't the belly button kind of the center of your country? I think it kind of is. And then likewise on the back of the body, olecranon, the elbow skull. That's that hard thing they teach in self-defense classes, to use your olecranon. It's actually, as we'll see, it's part of a bone called your ulna. You can really smack somebody good with that. My son is a mixed martial arts fighter. He's put people on the canvas using that olecranon. Sural is the back of your lower leg, your calf. So remember, crural is your shin, sural is your calf. Lumbar is your lower back. Sacrum, the base of the spine. Gluteal, buttocks, Greek, glutos, rump. Calcaneal is your heel. Plantar is the bottom of your foot. Scapula, your upper back. I think the root word actually in part means something like shovel. And popliteal is the back of the knee. You simply have to get used to these, and so you have a homework assignment on them. I gave you a homework assignment where you have to go through and figure out. I do things like, the palmar region is superior or inferior to the olecranon region, all right? And you have a whole homework assignment of those things. You'll do the homework, I'll give you the answers, and then we'll have a quiz the next day. So you will be quizzed on this. You might as well start to work on it right now. You're going to have to know it really, really soon. You're going to have a quiz on it really, really soon. So in addition to names, we have directions. Again, you have to be able to precisely talk about where something is compared to something else. Locates one body part with respect to another. Reduces the need for lengthy explanations. The thing underneath that thing below that one thing. No, we have precise terms for the regions and for the directions. So the directional terms occur in pairs. Superior versus inferior, medial versus lateral, proximal versus distal, and anterior versus posterior. These aren't difficult. You just have to get into the habit of using them. So let's take a look first at superior, inferior. Superior means closer to the head. So the nose is superior to the umbilicus. Do you remember the umbilicus? Sure, your belly button. Now, you're inclined to say the nose is above the umbilicus. Well, what if the person's lying on their back? It might not be above anymore at all. That's why we don't use those terms in anatomy and physiology. We don't say on top of or underneath or below or above. We say superior, and we use the term inferior, which means further away from the head. So the knee is inferior to the throat. Yeah, when you're standing up, your knee is below your throat, but if you're lying down, it's not. That's why we have to use precise terms. You have to learn these terms, and you have to use them precisely, all right? You're expected to know them. You'll be tested on them. Superior versus inferior. Likewise, medial versus lateral. Medial means closer to the midline. The midline is an imaginary line that divides you into equal halves, right and left. So it runs down your nose, right in between your eyes, runs right down your sternum, and then cuts off, splits your legs into two halves. So that's your midline. The mouth is medial to the breasts. See, the mouth is closer to the midline than the breasts are. So you might want to say it's more in the center or more in the middle. No, we don't do that. It's medial. These are precise terms. You have to learn them. You have to use them. Lateral means further away from the midline. The fingers are lateral to the knee, all right? And that's why, again, why anatomical position is so important. Anatomical direction terms now, two more, anterior and posterior. Anterior is, we can use the synonym ventral. So in animals it doesn't work that way, but in humans it does. So ventral, by the way, means belly. The root word there means belly. So the anterior side of your body is the belly side. That's at the front. So the forehead is anterior to the ear. All right. See, look on the picture. See how the ears are more posterior? All right. The forehead is more anterior. And so the other word then, posterior or dorsal. In humans, those are synonyms. In four-legged animals, they're not. So, but we can use them interchangeably. Anytime that I talk about dorsal and it's your turn to talk about it, you can say posterior and that's fine, okay? The heel is posterior to the chest. Okay, see, again, it's behind the chest, it's further back, but we don't say that. We say posterior. And the last set here, these are the only ones that I find sometimes students get a little bit mixed up about. Proximal and distal. They're not that hard. Proximal means nearer the attachment of a limb to the trunk. Now wait a minute, what the hell is a limb and what the hell is a trunk? So limbs, you only have 4 limbs. You have 2 arms and 2 legs. Those are your limbs. Your trunk is what your limbs connect to. You can think of it as your torso. So proximal means that something is closer to where the limb attaches to the body. Okay, so the elbow is proximal to the hand. See, the elbow is closer to where your limb attaches to your body, right? What do we call the place where your arms attach to your body informally? Yeah, your shoulder. So the elbow is closer to the shoulder than your hand is. That's why we say the elbow is proximal to the hand. In contrast, distal means farther away. So the foot is distal to the knee. So what do we call the place where your leg attaches to your trunk? Yeah, your hip, just informally. There are more formal terms you'll have to know, but informally, sure, your hip. So the foot is further away from your hip than your knee is, okay? So again, you'll have problems like this on your homework, and there will be problems like this on your quiz. I'll ask you things like that. I'll say the foot is proximal or distal to the knee, and you'll have to tell me which it is. So start practicing now. Here's your first chance. The antebrachial region is what compared to the coxal region? Now I know these terms are brand new, so go ahead, you can cheat, you can look in your book, you can look at the handout, look and see. Where's the antebrachial region? Remember, that's your forearm. Where's your coxal region? That's your hip. So in anatomical position, where is your forearm compared to your hip? And we always have to go for the best answer. You know, your forearm is a long structure. It has, it extends through space. It's not just a single point. So if you try to think too carefully, you're going to get all mixed up. We want the best answer. Which one of those is the best answer? And the best answer is lateral. In anatomical position, your forearm is more to the side. It's more lateral. And your hip would be closer to the midline. It's more medial. All right? And once again, to reward myself for doing this, that's a laterite butte. This is a place called the Maze. The Maze, the National Park Service says, is probably the most remote vehicle accessible place, certainly in the United States, maybe in all of North America. There's basically no one anywhere in this picture except me. I love the Maze. Beautiful place. Okay, I'll see you soon in the next annotated PowerPoint.